Can the Denver Broncos continue to find success in the ground game against a much better defense with the Philadelphia Eagles? Sean Payton may have defended it, but how does he plan on helping his team stop Philly's signature tush-push play? And what do we make about the changes coming out of Coors Field this morning, specifically in the front office? All things to come on today's rundown, but we begin with a special shout-out to our friends at Denver Regenerative Medicine. Guys, if weight loss has been a struggle for you, it's time for something real. At Denver Regenerative Medicine, they use full-strength GLP-1 medications with doctor oversight. You can start today with a free consultation and get real results for under $300 a month. Book now at DenverRegen.com. And we have to kick things off today with an acknowledgement of the news coming out of 20th and Blake with a change that many saw coming down the pipe, but is still one of prominent significance because of what it projects for the future going forward. And that is the dismissal or stepping down of current general manager and president of baseball operations, Bill Schmidt. The Rockies put out a statement today detailing the reasons for the stepping down or the parting of ways, and said that a new voice will benefit our organization as we work toward giving our fans the competitive team they deserve. We are setting our sights on finding the right leader from outside our organization who can bring a fresh perspective to the Rockies and enhance our baseball operations with a new vision, innovation, and focus on both short and long-term success. And it's that portion right there in the middle that I think is significant because it represents something that we haven't seen within the Rockies organization that time, and that is a stated, firm, and clear commitment to go outside of the organization in order to hire a prominent front office role. And clearly under Dick Monfort, the Rockies have been a pinnacle of stability even when there should be disruption. And they've been so insular in their front office approach, and it's really been at the detriment of the organization, something and nothing that we're not all familiar with here in Colorado. So this commitment and this decision to go outside the organization and state it multiple times clearly, with Dick Monfort and Walker Monfort taking on a larger role as well within the organization, does it represent to you some glimmer of hope, some form of light at the end of a tunnel that up to this point has been more than 2 consecutive 100-loss seasons and a season in 2025 that has flirted with potentially the worst in the history of baseball? They cleared that mark with some wins on the back half of their schedule, but for a good portion of the early chunk of the season, we were talking about this Colorado Rockies team being the worst in the history of baseball. My gut tells me, because I've said it before, that Dick Monfort is Thanos. He is unstoppable. He is inevitable. And there is no external force that can bend his will to do what he wants and overcome that culture and that environment that he's created at 20th and Blake to turn the Rockies into a perennial contender and a winner. This commitment to going outside of the organization with their general manager search presents an opportunity for that to change, but I think the Rockies would have to really get lucky. You'd have to hit lightning in a bottle and find yourself the Moneyball crew that's going to be inexpensive, young, and unproven, and hit all their green lights, because the Rockies do have a decent young core and young nucleus, but they've struggled with a competitive farm system in recent years. And even with the talent that they have on their roster, the pitching and the hitting never seem to be clicking at the same time. And they have 100-loss seasons and a record to show for it. So while I think that the dismissal or the stepping down of Bill Schmidt is a necessary step and something that is probably several years overdue, I'm still not 100% convinced that this decision and this move gives me enough hope to think that the Rockies can be anything more than maybe an 85 or 90 loss team than a 100-loss team. And maybe that's a step in the right direction, and that should be a good thing. I just am not ready to say that one person coming in as an outside hire at the general manager position is enough to disassemble Thanos in Dick Monfort with all of his Infinity Stones. Shifting gears to the Denver Broncos, it appears that we found against Cincinnati a formula for sustainable success. Sustainable in the sense that it can work week to week, opponent to opponent throughout the remainder of their 2025 schedule. But the question is whether or not they will, in the Broncos and specifically in Sean Payton, be able to continue to put that out there week to week and not succumb to the temptation to change things as the season goes on. And that formula for success involved a significant commitment to the run game. Easier to do when you're playing a team like the Bengals, who are without Joe Burrow and are, by many accounts here locally and even nationally, including on the broadcast where they were ripped to shreds by Troy Aikman and Joe Buck, kind of a junior varsity NFL team with a junior varsity level outing on Monday Night Football. So it's easy to commit to the run and hand the ball off to J.K. Dobbins and R.J. Harvey for series at a time instead of play to play when you're up multiple scores and the game was really never in doubt after the first or second possession of the football game. But you've got a test coming up now with the Philadelphia Eagles, and that presents a different challenge because although the Eagles have not looked quite like themselves from the Super Bowl year a year ago, that is still a roster that is loaded with talent from top to bottom on both sides of the ball and has championship pedigree and winning experience. And Sean Payton, after the game against Cincinnati, talked about the importance of the run game and what it could potentially contribute to the team's identity. He said, quote, "It was a step in the right direction. Early in the season, all other 31 teams are really working to figure out who they are. We are no different, but certainly this was a step in the right direction. I would say that there were a lot of things we were able to do tonight that hopefully can carry over." I certainly would hope so too, frankly, because if they aren't able to consistently feed the likes of J.K. Dobbins, who I think is genuinely solidified himself at this point as the Broncos' RB1 and somebody that, again, when healthy, can perform at an above average, very high level in the backfield. And R.J. Harvey continues to take bigger and bigger bites of the apple, it seems, week to week, and earning more opportunities to be used in Sean Payton's game plan as a supplementary piece to J.K. Dobbins. But again, that's easy to do when it's the Cincinnati Bengals. And we all have the flashbacks of Sean Payton writing "run it" on his play sheet in big, bold, Sharpie letters in all capitals, and then not doing it in that game against the Chargers, which they ultimately lost because they moved away from it in the second half, and LA was able to kind of creep their way back in and overtake. Sean Payton needs to take what he's seen in this Monday Night Football game and apply it going forward. It's not a hope. It's not a wish. It's a need. This is how the Denver Broncos find sustainable balance and success to be the team that their head coach spoke into existence in the offseason as a playoff contender, as a potential Super Bowl roster, and a quarterback who can enter that upper echelon of the top 4 or 5 players at his position, who are the top 4 or 5 players in the entire world, at the game of football. But he can't do it if he doesn't commit to at times. It's not going to work like it did against Cincinnati all the time. It's not. It's just not. But the fact that it did work against Cincinnati, that the team felt the belief in it, Bo Nix talked about it. J.K. Dobbins talked about it. He praised Sean Payton and showered him with positive compliments about his play calling ability and his ability to find the skill sets and maximize the opportunities for his players to be successful. Quinn Miners went so far as to say that he feels that game against Cincinnati helped them establish their identity. He said, quote, "I think we found a little bit of a rhythm and a little bit of an identity tonight. I think we are figuring out our standard, looking at this film, that this is what we need to expect from everybody moving forward. Competency, proficiency, and excellence in the run game is a rising tide that will lift all boats on this offense. Sean Payton loves to chuck the ball around the yard. He loves his quarterback in Bo Nix, two things he's been emphatic about. Well, J.K. Dobbins breaking the streak of 100-yard rushers that lasted 38 games between Latavius Murray and when J.K. Dobbins did it against the Bengals. That did not stop R.J. Harvey from being productive with just under 60 yards of total production. That did not stop Bo Nix from throwing for over 300 yards in the passing game and contributing there as well. It is not a robbing Peter to pay Paul situation. The more efficient you are, the more balanced you are on offense, the more efficient you should be on offense. And the more efficient you are on offense, the more opportunities you will get to continue to stack offensive plays, drive, series, etc. This Philadelphia Eagles team is significantly better than what we saw against Cincinnati. But they've had their struggles offensively as well. They are coming off of a game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers where they had virtually 0 yards in the second half on offense. And prior to that, in the passing game against the Rams, Jalen Hurts was almost a negative passing quarterback in the second half. So they, in the Philadelphia Eagles, are still figuring things out as well. And this is an important gut check moment for Sean Payton and the Denver Broncos to say, hey, every team, all 31 other teams in the NFL are trying to figure out who they are in the first, 3 to 4 weeks of the season. So are we. Well, I think you found it, Sean. I think you found what you need to be, and it's not always going to be pretty. It's not always going to work. The Broncos aren't going to go undefeated through the remainder of their schedule over the next 3+ months. But they found a model for success and something that offensively they can build upon that will help take pressure off of the defense, who has had to bend and hope they don't break. And then it results in an unfortunate 2-game stretch where you get walked off on field goals consecutive weeks. This helps take a little bit of pressure off the defense. It takes pressure off of Bo Nix, who seems to clearly be heavy from the neck up and have a lot of white noise between the ears about what's going on and how to build off of his impressive rookie season against a tougher schedule with an entire year of film and tape put out on him and a lot of moving parts on offense that are still trying to find their rhythm. Evan Ingram, most notably, who had his best game as a Denver Bronco against the Bengals, and it really wasn't all that statistically impressive, to be frank. So there's so much riding on the Broncos' ability to be able to just steady the tide, float, and move forward, even if it's slowly but surely in the right direction. And a competent run game with 2 running backs who have already shown through 4 weeks that they can do what's being asked of them will be paramount for them to continue this stretch during this chunk of the middle of the season where they have an opportunity to have winnable games fall in their favor the way that they didn't in the first 3 weeks of the season. The defensive side of the ball presents an entirely different challenge for the Denver Broncos because the tush push is something that has gained notoriety and some would say infamy in recent years because nobody, and I mean nobody, executes it as well as the Philadelphia Eagles. The NFL's a copycat league, and a lot of teams have tried to copycat this. Damn it, none of them can do it, at least not to the degree that they would like to or the degree that Philly has found a way to execute it properly. Josh Allen, as big and strong as Josh Allen is, essentially iced himself out of a playoff game with a failed conversion trying to tush push it in last year's postseason. We've seen the Ravens with Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry try to do it. We've seen other teams around the league try to put some semblance of similarity between what the Eagles have found a way to do, which is almost a guaranteed short yardage conversion on for 3rd or 4th down, and bring it to their own offense. But nobody can. And it's caused significant stirring around the league, from the fan base to the media and to other teams around the league. They had a vote about this play in the previous ownership meetings, league meetings last season. And it was voted to stay the same. It was upheld. There was no ban imposed on the tush push. Now, that may change in years to come. And one of the big reasons for that is because of a perceived danger or risk from a health and safety perspective that the play would provide. Crashing that many bodies and that much mass into a small surface area, piling them on top of each other and encouraging that kind of close quarters combat, for lack of a better word. Well, Sean Payton, not exactly buying into that philosophy. Sean Payton, when asked about his thoughts on the tush push and defending it, he said that he was in favor of it. He was in favor of calling it actually one of the safest plays in the NFL right now. One of the safest plays in the NFL right now, and when run properly, it's more about the technique of the quarterback sneak than it is more so about just mashing bodies together. Well, that's all fine and dandy, and you know what? That may be true. Maybe. But you're still going to have to defend it on Sunday in an 11 a.m. East Coast road game against the defending Super Bowl champions. And if Vance Joseph and company cannot find a way to do that, with the vaunted front four that they have and all the money they've poured in from Zach Allen to DJ Jones to Nick Bonito and Jonathan Cooper, and then you have supplementary players like John Franklin Myers and Jonah Ellis and the linebacking core, if they are unable to put that money and that investment in the box and stop the Eagles more often than not at what they do best, they may struggle to keep pace with Philadelphia, because this offense, despite how well they looked against Cincinnati, and as we talked about with Jake Shapiro yesterday, what you saw against Cincinnati offensively, I think, was a glimpse of what the Denver Broncos offense in theory could be, but it is not, in my opinion, a representation of what they currently are, and that is why I feel like there's danger in that being kind of the mirage in the desert. And because the Denver Broncos offense has been so mercurial and hot and cold, and especially with their first 15 plays, their game script to start each half has been some of the worst stretches of their offensive performances game to game, which, again, blows my mind because you have total control over what you want to run there. Because they've been so up and down, it's going to be critical for the defense to take opportunities where they can and to keep the Broncos offense in this game to be able to pull forward and build gradually over the course of the second quarter, third quarter, into the fourth quarter, where they can hopefully continue to lean on an improved run game and keep Philly's offense off the field. There's just so much to keep tabs on as we continue to work our way toward Eagles game week. The Buffs have a big game coming up this weekend as they continue and hopefully try to have a better follow-up second act to their Big 12 slate than they did this previous week against BYU. We will continue to monitor everything going on at 20th and Blake with the dismissal of Bill Schmidt and the fate of Warren Schaefer, the interim manager who was stepped up to replace Bud Black, fired in the middle of the season, the longtime manager. And Nuggets and Avs are right around the corner. Training camp for the Nuggets is here. The Avalanche had a preseason game against Vegas last night, and their season will be here in just a matter of weeks. The sports calendar is beginning to collide as all four of these major sports, or at least three of the four for us here in Colorado, are going to converge in what's going to be a joyous time, I think, for Colorado sports fans, because the hockey and the basketball team have proved they've got it going on. And the football team, especially the professional football team, has shown that there's hope, there's optimism, there's excitement there. But this weekend's game will be a massive test and kind of a gauge as to whether or not the Broncos are closer to being there or maybe closer to being that team that everyone thought was going to be the preseason darling and the cute pick and the surprise option. But really, they're closer to, almost being there. We will monitor it all for you at Denver Sports 104.3 The Fan. Stay locked in on the air for the likes of Stokely and Evans with Mark Schler at Dover and Cecil, The Drive, and even Denver Sports Tonight for you late commuters. DenverSports.com with our friends of the show, Will Peterson, Jake Shapiro, Trent Finnegan, Andrew Mason, Cecil Lammy, and yes, of course, James Marilat as well. And like and subscribe to our YouTube channel where you can check out all of our live and clipped recorded content exclusively on our social media channels like The Rundown, Denver Sports Daily, Orange and Blue Today, the Mile High Hoops and Hockey Podcast, and maybe a few more shows and opportunities for content coming your way in the very near future. We've got it all for you. Nobody does football season. Really, nobody does sports seasons like Denver Sports 104.3 The Fan, because that's what we are. We embody The Fan. We embody the voice of the fan base, and we consider ourselves a legitimate and true all sports outlet because we love to cover it all. We write about it, we talk about it, and we record videos about it for you, the fans, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, all accessible to you. Have a great rest of your afternoon. We'll catch you at noon for tomorrow's rundown.